Forensic science is the hottest topic since Miss O'Leary's cow started the Great Chicago Fire. I am Douglas Posey, MD, ME, retired after 33 years of active practice in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology. I'll be presenting a series of episodes under the title Real World Forensic Science, and that is to be distinguished from CSI, or the television crime scene investigation. During the next many episodes, we're going to look at the background of forensic science, players of forensic science, and the multiple disciplines within the forensic science. After which we'll continue with a series of interesting, intriguing, and sometimes frustrating cases. If, and it is, the medical legal death investigation system is important to the public health, the criminal investigative system, and last but not least, the families of the deceased loved ones. Why is the medical legal death investigation system in this country described as a frayed patchwork of medical examiners, coroners, or some combination thereof? 21 states have medical examiner system, 11 have coroner system, and 18 have some combination of the two. A system implies completeness, working together, and uniformity. The medical legal investigation system in the United States exhibit neither completeness, working together, nor uniformity. Regardless of the system, 50% of the population find themselves under the coroner system, and the remaining 50% find themselves under the medical examiner system. At this point in the introductory episode, we should pause to make sure that we understand what we're talking about when we say a coroner or a medical examiner. The coroner is a carryover from the Old English system wherein a crowner was involved in the investigation of the death of subjects to protect the interests of the king. The sheriff has the responsibility, but was suspected of not being totally truthful, so a crowner was installed to watch over the sheriff or replace him. Coroners in our system in the United States are elected officials. They're usually not physicians. The requirement to become a coroner may be minimal. The coroner usually must rely upon the help of the pathologist to get autopsies done, and the coroner usually have another job that takes priority in his or her life. The requirements to become a coroner differ from state to state. It was once described that to serve as a coroner in Georgia, the individual must be a registered voter, at least 25 years of age, no felony convictions, high school graduate, or equivalent, swear that he or she was telling the truth to the above questions, and an annual training period of 1 week. Medical examiners, on the other hand, are almost always physicians. They are appointed rather than elected. They are usually pathologists, and they most often forensic pathologists. The terminology is unique and so confusing that an untrained individual would need a scorecard to identify the players. For example, coroners are appointed and not elected in Hawaii, Kansas, and North Dakota. Coroners are physicians, not necessarily medical examiners, in Kansas, North Dakota, Louisiana, and Ohio. Coroners are sheriffs in some parts of California. They are prosecutors in Nebraska and some parts of Washington state. They are elected 2 per county in New York, and they are known as the Justice of the Peace in Texas. I was personally miffed when a seasoned journalist in Texas referred to me as the coroner. As mentioned above, we do not have coroners in Texas. In addition, my education, training, and experience consisted of 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 1 year of internship, 4 years of anatomic and clinical pathology residency training, and a year of fellowship training in forensic pathology. The confusion in our terminology is not limited to coroners. There are medical examiners variation and confusion as well. In some states, a physician, not necessarily a pathologist, who assists in death investigation or function like a coroner is called a medical examiner, for example, in Michigan. In some states, the medical examiner is not necessarily a physician, for example, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. In addition, some people who do insurance physicals or job-related physicals are also referred to as medical examiners. Once again, depending on the state, you need a scorecard to identify the medical examiner. You'd have to be familiar with state law. Ideally, a medical examiner would be a forensic pathologist. If we take a look at the offices where the medical examiners work, there are 465 offices where forensic autopsies are performed in this country. In 2004, the last year in which I could find data, only 40 of 465 offices were accredited by the National Association of Medical Examiners, the applicable accreditation body. This body establishes minimal criteria by which the office should function to apply for and be inspected to become accredited. I would like to emphasize that this body establishes minimal criteria for accreditation. The small number of offices accredited in the United States beg the question, why? And the truth is that some offices cannot qualify. Many offices cannot meet inspection and accreditation standards, and in some offices, the caseload is too high. The National Association of Medical Examiners will not accredit an office where any one pathologist is doing more than 250 autopsies per year. The thinking, when one exceeds 250 autopsies per year, it's not if but when the mistakes will occur. During the opioid death crisis, it was alleged that some offices were willing to give up their accreditation so that they could have their medical examiners perform more than the requisite 250 autopsies per year. And that was going to be done in order to try to keep up with the workload. The opioid death crisis was followed by COVID-19 pandemic, and the medical examiner's capacity has been pushed to the brink. It's probably not healthy to walk around contemplating your mortality, but the average person in the streets of Houston, Texas, does not know where the medical examiner's office, or the morgue as they call it, is located. They have no idea about the procedures and the fact that an autopsy is just part of a complete postmortem examination. The complete postmortem examination consists of 3 parts: the death scene investigation, the autopsy, and the involvement of the crime lab, DNA analysis and toxicology, for example. Either both of which is especially important in many autopsies in determining the cause of death. And they have no idea about the wait time. The turnaround time varies from one lab to the next, and the result, again, is of utmost importance in the completion of the postmortem examination. To take toxicology and or DNA, the wait can be up to 90 days in some of the best-ran clinic crime labs in this country. The average citizen does not know whether they are in a coroner's, medical examiner's, or combination system. I mean, the systems are not all the same. In some instances, it matters where you die. I've attempted to define the coroner, and I'd like to segue back and define forensic pathology. Forensic is a public forum involved in the courtroom, and it can be a debate or an argument. Pathology is the study of the nature and the causes of diseases. Putting the two together, forensic pathology is the study of disease and injury that is of interest to the public health, and to the courts of law. There have been talks over the years and discussion forums on the need to change the coroner system to a complete medical examiner system that date back to 1928, with follow-up meetings by different groups in the years 1932, 1954, 1968, 1985, 2003, and the latest effort by the National Academy of Forensic Science in 2009. Somehow, it all seems to come back to economics. The coroner has a budget, and it is well known that the entire medical examiner system is underfunded. If the funds are short near the end of the month or near the end of the budget cycle, the coroner may have to make a decision as to which death he has funds to get autopsies. On the other hand, it's a long, arduous, and expensive trip through medical education to become a forensic pathologist. In the year 2019-2020, the average cost of public medical education for in-state students was approximately $38,000 per year and almost $62,000 per year for out-of-state students. I would like to emphasize that forensic pathologists are among the lowest paid of the physicians group. And in addition, I believe that the practice of forensic pathology has to be a labor of love. And therefore, I'm not totally sure that throwing more money at it will increase the number of pathology residents who choose to study forensic pathology in a certified fellowship program. The medical legal death investigation system impacts our personal liberty, freedom, financial well-being, injury prevention and control, mortality analysis, and the assessment of our medical care. The real world of forensic science is quite different from televised CSI. We call the system we have a medical examiner system, but if there are 3,171 counties in the United States and 960 of those counties are covered by medical examiners or medical examiner system, I submit to you that we have a coroner system by democratic rule. In addition, there's only approximately 500 board-certified forensic pathologists working full-time within what we call the medical examiner system, and there are approximately 1,900 coroners. Once again, you wouldn't have to be a mathematician to conclude that we have, according to the numbers, a coroner system. It may sound pleasing and comforting to say that we have a medical examiner system, but the fact is we don't. The coroner is an elected, non-physician in most instances, and an official who is on the front line of deciding whether your loved one's death warrants further investigation by the medical examiner. If the coroner decides, for whatever reason, that your loved one does not fit the criteria or the budget, he and he alone decides that no further study or autopsy is required. When I was in Georgia, working for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, on call for autopsies the following day, the medical examiner investigator called me to inform me that the coroner had a case he wanted to send in, but he wanted to discuss it with me prior to sending it in. I instructed her to tell him to call me as I would like to discuss the death scene with him. The investigator called me back to inform me that the coroner said he had not gone to the death scene. I instructed her to tell him that when he returned from the death scene, please call me again. This may be an isolated example, and I certainly hope so, because there are a lot of good coroners out there that's done a good job and has done a good job over the year. The only challenge is they are limited by what they can do based on education, training, and experience. It does not excuse the fact also that there's much room for improvement. The fact is, the coroner system is here to stay, and at best we can do is work on improving it. I mentioned earlier, and I'll segue back to it later again, that of the 4 million graduates in this country each year, 43% find themselves either unemployed or underemployed. Approximately 70% of criminal justice majors find themselves in the unemployed or underemployed category. The 3,171 counties in the United States that I previously mentioned each has a county coroner, and in New York they have 2 per county. In addition, each office has at least 1 deputy coroner. It seemed to me that criminal justice majors who are underemployed or may be a perfect match for the system. Each office could start off by bringing one of these young people in as a deputy, grooming them to eventually take over the office as a coroner. One of my tenets in life is that very few people come up with original ideas. Therefore, I believe that this is not a new idea, but I can't help but wonder why it has not been discussed. Could it be that we're so intent and short-sighted on getting rid of the coroner system that we are either unable or unwilling to look at improving upon it in the interim? When those in leadership roles say that we have about 400 to 500 board-certified forensic pathologists that are currently practicing full-time, and the nation needs approximately 1,000 full-time practicing board-certified forensic pathologists to do the work, that would still leave us with a mixed system, and we'll still have more coroners than medical examiners. We as forensic pathologists cannot keep up with the current allocated position. On any given day in the United States, there are approximately 10% of forensic pathology positions that are vacant. We'll never close the gap by training more forensic pathologists because pathology residents are simply not answering the call. For example, in years past, let's look at approximately 15,000 new medical students who've just graduated. 5,000 will seek postgraduate training in internal medicine. 1,000 will seek training in radiology. 500 will seek training in general pathology. And 40 will choose forensic pathology training. The numbers just don't add up. If the rate of entry of new board-certified, full-time, practicing forensic pathologists remains the same, and we need 1,100 to 1,200 instead of the 500 we currently have, we cannot get there from here.